Hey, this isn't a ghost story. It's worse. This first story isn't about one night. It's about years of manipulation. A friend who crossed every line and rewrote reality around her. If you've ever felt someone was off, stay with me. Let's begin.
Hey, this isn't a ghost story. It's worse. This first story isn't about one night. It's about years of manipulation. A friend who crossed every line and rewrote reality around her. If you've ever felt someone was off, stay with me. Let's begin. This story took place over several years, from the mid-90s into the early 2000s. Everyone has had a bad friend. I had an epically bad one. I grew up in northern Indiana. In my senior year of high school, I met a girl named Hannah who'd transferred late from a local Catholic school. She told people she'd been expelled after a fight over a boy. Police were involved. There was even a restraining order. Hannah swore it was all lies. Later, in college, I heard another version. A mutual friend told me about a bizarre situation from that Catholic school where two girls believed they were secretly dating the same guy. And one of those girls was Hannah. The following summer, Hannah and I were back in town. I asked her about it. She said she'd tell me what really happened. Hannah admitted she'd had a crush on a boy and became obsessed with another girl, Julie, who spoke to him. She didn't just dislike Julie. She wanted to destroy her. Hannah took me to a room and showed me books she kept hidden, books about revenge, manipulation, and driving someone crazy. Then she explained what she did. She pretended to be Julie's friend long enough to get close. She used anonymous calls and fake messages to convince Julie there was a secret relationship happening. Plans that never happened, notes that weren't real, calls that were staged. And when Julie reacted, Hannah denied everything, calmly, repeatedly, until Julie looked unstable. It ended the way you'd expect. Confrontation at school, chaos, and eventually the phone records pointing back to Hannah. Hannah wasn't ashamed. She was proud. The only thing that bothered her was getting caught. And the pattern didn't stop there. That same summer, Hannah claimed she was having a secret affair with a guy named Derek. But I saw Derek in public once. He wasn't her boyfriend. He was angry and told her to stay away. He said someone had been harassing him and his girlfriend anonymously. He traced it. It led back to Hannah. Hannah admitted she'd tried to break them up and went too far. Later, we were at a bar. Hannah recruited a complete stranger to make a humiliating call to someone she hated, reading a script she prepared. She paid him for it. That was the moment I realized something important. This wasn't drama. This was a habit, a method, a way of hurting people while staying invisible. Not long after, Hannah became obsessed with another friend's boyfriend. There was an incident at a local overlook, the kind of place where one wrong step is fatal. Hannah insisted it was an accident. The other girl said Hannah tried to push her. Police were involved, but the details were messy and nothing stuck. By that point, rumors about Hannah weren't rumors anymore. People were scared of her. And I didn't want to be close to her either. Then Hannah moved away. And for a while, I thought it was over. I wish it had been.
I thought distance would end it. But Hannah didn't stop. She just found new ways and higher stakes. About a year and a half later, Hannah contacted me again. She said the move was great. New friends, new life, and a new boyfriend she was going to marry. His name was Dan. That name hit me like a cold splash of water. Because years earlier, back home, Hannah had been accused of obsessing over a man named Dan. Now she claims Dan was her boyfriend and always had been. Around that time, Hannah bought a phone while visiting Indiana. She registered it under Dan. Later, out of curiosity, I called the number. It didn't reach Hannah. It reached an answering message for Dan, and it sounded like the same Dan from our hometown. When I confronted Hannah, she spun an explanation, a coincidence, a favor, a mix-up. But nothing about it felt like a coincidence. In the months that followed, Hannah's life got darker. She was using hard drugs, relationships were always secret, ex-girlfriends were always crazy, someone was always stalking her. Then her mother called me. Hannah was back living with family, unstable, and her mom begged me to help her. She said Hannah couldn't relapse, consequences would be severe. I agreed to accompany Hannah on a trip back to Minneapolis to pick up her things. Hannah still wouldn't tell me what happened there. When we arrived, I learned the truth from people who had lived with her. There had been an overdose, not an accident. An overdose so severe that one woman stopped breathing and was clinically dead before paramedics got her back. The roommate said Hannah didn't just make a mistake. She interfered when they tried to call for help. She tried to control the situation. She tried to keep it quiet. Hannah later framed it as temporary insanity caused by drugs. She went to rehab. Charges didn't stick the way you'd expect, and Hannah walked away from it. What haunted me wasn't just the overdose, it was the motive. Because the roommate said Hannah had fixated on a man again. That same pattern, jealousy, isolation, control, a private fantasy that other people were forced to live inside. Back in Indiana, Hannah visited again. We ran into Dan, the real one. He was friendly with me. Then suddenly he pulled away and avoided me completely. Hannah comforted me with an explanation that didn't add up. And then the calls started. Anonymous numbers, three-way calls, men yelling at me, accusing me of messing with Dan, threats, confusion. I called Hannah commanding answers. That was the moment her mask fell off. She told me Dan was her secret boyfriend, that he'd loved her for years, that other relationships weren't real, that I was forcing him away from her. It wasn't just lying, it was delusion, a fixed belief. And when I realized what I was hearing, I remembered something else. The last time Hannah showed up unexpectedly, she had brought a handgun. That night, I dug through old numbers and called one of the phones Hannah had used. And the voicemail greeting wasn't Dan. It was me. Hannah had recorded my voice and placed it on a phone she controlled. Suddenly, everything made sense. The fake connections, the anonymous calls, the confusion. It was a system, a trap, and I was inside it. The next day, Hannah showed up at my apartment screaming to be let in. I refused. I was ready to call police. Then she switched tactics. She cried, claimed Dan had killed himself, and walked away. After that, I changed my number, moved, cut contact with anyone who might connect me back to her. The last I heard, Hannah had found a new target, a new Dan, a new story she was trying to force into reality. And after everything I learned, I didn't want closure. I wanted distance. So Hannah from Indiana, let's not meet again.
The first story was about immediate danger. This one is different because sometimes the most terrifying people don't break into your house. They sit next to you, smile, and quietly build an entire life with you inside their head. This is the second story. I recently got a friend request that brought all of this back. I was 18, fresh into university, trying to make friends and fit in. I had a girlfriend, a few friend groups, and things were normal. After one of my classes, students usually went to lunch together. One day, a girl named Lily asked if I wanted to eat with her. Nothing strange, just casual conversation. The next week, she asked again, and again. Before I realized it, lunch on those days was always just me and her. One day in class, I asked someone if I could add them on social media. Lily was sitting a few rows away. She snapped her head toward me. It was fast, sharp, unnatural. That same day, she sent me a friend request. We had no mutual friends. I still don't know how she found my profile. I ignored the feeling in my gut and accepted it. She started messaging me constantly, commenting on everything I posted. I kept telling myself she was just socially awkward. One detail made things worse. My girlfriend's name was also Lily. That clearly bothered her. She joked that my girlfriend should pick a different name. She laughed, but it didn't feel like a joke. Over time, it became obvious she had a crush on me. I pretended not to notice. I wasn't interested, at all. She dressed and acted like a strange mix of a 1950s housewife and someone still obsessed with Disney princesses. On the last day of our shared class, she didn't ask me to lunch. She asked me to go for a walk. She led me into the woods near campus, sat down on a log, told me she was going to miss me. Then she kissed me. No warning. I left and felt relieved, thinking I wouldn't see her for a while. After summer break, things in my life fell apart. Friend drama, a breakup. I started dating a guy. Lily was not happy about that. One day on Tumblr, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Someone had sent another blogger a message using text from my profile. They asked the blogger to analyze what kind of person would write it. The message wasn't anonymous. I clicked the profile. It was a shrine, a pink cutesy blog almost entirely about me. Details of my life, places I'd been, things I'd said. She described our lunches as dates, wrote about the kiss as if it was mutual, posted song lyrics I loved saying she'd always be there for me. She wrote about my boyfriend too, not kindly. She said he didn't deserve me, that we'd break up soon, that I was meant to be with her. Then I noticed something worse. She kept mentioning her best friend, Steven, someone I'd never heard of, until I realized the truth. She was stealing photos from my page and saying Steven sent them to her. In her mind, I was two people, her perfect best friend and her future partner. I confronted her. She said nothing, changed the subject like none of it existed. She deleted the blog soon after. But it didn't stop. She tried to seduce my boyfriend. He told me immediately. She spread rumors, sabotaged a career opportunity. I realized it was safer to stay distant than to make her angry. After graduation, I cut contact. A few days ago, she sent me another friend request. It's still sitting there, because I know if I delete it, she'll send another one. So, to the person who spent 12 years obsessing over me, stalking me, and rewriting my life inside your head, let's not meet again.
If that story made you uneasy, this next one hits a lot closer to home. This isn't about something paranormal. This is about being watched and realizing it only when it's almost too late. I don't even know how to start this, but here goes. I'm 21 years old, I live alone, and I'm a college student. Because money is tight, I live in a low-income apartment building. It's not the best place, but it's what I can afford. That day started like any other. I woke up, made coffee, and went to work. There was a power outage, so I was sent home early around 3 p.m. I took the bus and went straight to college. The commute is long and usually exhausting, but that day the bus was almost empty. Classes were normal. Afterward, I stopped by a friend's place, then headed home. Nothing felt wrong. Not yet. Because I don't feel safe taking the bus late at night, I ordered an Uber home. When I arrived at my building and walked inside, I noticed a man sitting near the entrance in front of a few apartments. I had never seen him before, but I didn't think much of it. I assumed he was visiting someone. I went up to my apartment, locked the door, and started watching TV. It was around 11 p.m. when I decided to go to sleep. That's when I heard it. A loud, violent noise from outside my apartment, like a door being slammed. My heart dropped. I looked toward my front door and saw that it was slightly open. In that moment, my entire body froze. I didn't think, I just reacted. I called a friend who lived a few blocks away and begged him to come over. He arrived quickly. Together, we searched every room in my apartment. Nothing was missing. Nothing was out of place. But something still felt very wrong. So we went downstairs and asked to check the building's security cameras. The guard said he'd have to contact his supervisor, but eventually we were allowed to see the footage. That's when everything became real. On the screen, I saw the same man I had noticed earlier.
He walked up to my apartment door and tried to open it. And then he succeeded. He opened my door and started to step inside, but suddenly he panicked as if he heard something and ran straight out of the building. The moment we saw that, the entire building was alerted. The police were called. They searched every floor and questioned residents, asking if anyone recognized the man from the footage. No one did. Absolutely no one. I asked the security guard how the man even got inside without being noticed. He shrugged and said too many people come and go at night. And honestly, this is a low-income building. Security isn't exactly tight. I never saw the man again. I don't even remember his face clearly anymore. The police still say they're investigating, but nothing has come of it. To this day, no one knows who he was or how long he'd been watching me. And I can't stop thinking about one thing. I truly believe this man followed me during my daily routine, work, college, buses, and waited for the right moment. Something almost happened that night, and the only reason it didn't was pure luck.
This next story is a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous moments don't happen in haunted places. They happen during the routines we think are harmless. This one still makes my skin crawl. Before I start, I need to say this up front. I know how stupid this was. I know I shouldn't have been doing it, and after what happened, I haven't done it since. This happened about 6 months ago. I was a dumb teenage guy who liked sneaking out at night. My parents never let me stay out after sunset, but walking around late at night felt peaceful to me. Whenever school or life got overwhelming, I'd sneak out and walk for a couple of hours just to clear my head. That night started like all the others. Around 2 in the morning, I grabbed a sweatshirt, slipped on my shoes once I was outside, and hopped the fence behind my house. Once I was far enough from my neighborhood, I took one of my usual routes, cutting through another neighborhood and then onto a long winding road that leads to a small circle of shops and fast food places. I spent a while there, just walking loops and eventually sitting on a bench. Out of boredom, I picked up a plastic spoon off the ground and started grinding it against the pavement until half of it was worn away. That detail matters later. After some time, I headed toward a park about 10 minutes away. I usually ended my walks there, just lying on a picnic bench and staring at the sky. The park always creeped me out at night. It's completely surrounded by trees, and it feels like someone could be watching you from the woods at any moment. I was lying there, lost in my thoughts, when I heard it. An old man whistling. I shot upright immediately. I saw him standing under a streetlight near the only entrance to the park. I recognized him. He was a tall, skinny white guy who walked around town every day, always wearing the same button-up shirt and cargo pants. My mom and I had talked about him before. We thought he might be mentally disabled and living with a caretaker. I'd spoken to him once a year earlier. In broad daylight, he looked at me and said, "Jesus loves you," with this strange smirk. I'd awkwardly replied, "I know," and kept walking. But this was different. It was past 3 in the morning. The park was empty, and he was staring directly at me. We locked eyes for way too long. Then he slowly started walking towards me. My body froze. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. I remember thinking how ridiculous it looked in movies when characters just stand there in fear. I don't laugh at that anymore. When he reached me, he gave me this knowing grin, like he had information I didn't. Then he reached out, half patting, half grabbing my shoulder, and pulled something from his pocket. A plastic spoon. The same spoon I'd been holding earlier. He slipped it in the front pocket of my sweatshirt. That moment snapped me out of it. I bolted. I ran straight to the park bathroom, slammed the door behind me, and locked it behind me. I was shaking. I didn't know what time it was. My phone wasn't on. My parents tracked my location, so I couldn't call anyone. Inside that dim bathroom, I looked closer at the spoon. It had something carved on it, but I couldn't read it. It wasn't even letters. It looked like a word, but my brain couldn't recognize a single character, like one of those images where nothing makes sense no matter how hard you look at it. I stayed locked in that bathroom for over half an hour, replaying every decision that led me there. I kept hoping he'd leave. Eventually, I worked up the courage to run. I unlocked the door and sprinted toward the park exit. Just before turning the corner, I glanced back. He was sitting on the bench right next to the bathroom. He had waited there. I ran the entire way home without stopping. I hid behind a bush near my house to catch my breath, then snuck back inside. I haven't gone out at night since.
The spoon is still buried somewhere in my room. I haven't touched it in months. And sometimes I wonder how long he'd been following me, and whether that night was the first time I noticed him, or just the first time he let me know he was there. So, to the man who waited for me in that park, let's not meet again.
The next story proved that danger doesn't always look dangerous at first. Sometimes it sounds helpful. Sometimes it sounds polite. And sometimes you don't realize how deep you're in until it's almost too late. This happened 5 years ago, in January 2020, just before the pandemic. I was 19 at the time, in my second year of college in Paris, studying art. One evening, a few girls from my class and I went to a special Leonardo da Vinci exhibition at the Louvre. It was a rare exhibition, something that only happens once every few decades, and one of our professors strongly recommended it. We left school around 5 in the evening and stopped at a bar nearby before heading to the museum. I hadn't eaten all day, and after a few drinks, I got tipsy pretty fast. I was very skinny back then. After the exhibition, around 8 p.m., we all split up and headed home. I got on the train that would take me back to my city, sat down, and noticed my phone battery was already low, around 18%. That's when I realized I had my power bank, but not the charging cable. My phone was my only alarm clock at the time. I remembered using it earlier that day in class and plugging it in briefly. I messaged my class group chat asking if anyone had seen my charger. A classmate replied with a photo of it on a desk and said they'd give it back to me the next morning. That solved one problem, but not the one I was facing right now. I asked the man sitting next to me on the train if he had a charger I could borrow for a few minutes. He said no, but suggested I check the shop at the next station to buy one. The shop was closed. That's when he turned to me and said, "I have one at home. I live right next to the station." I was tired, a little drunk, and not thinking clearly. Instead of saying no, I said okay. His stop was 3 stations before mine. When we got there, we both got off. It was January, completely dark outside. He told me to follow him. Every instinct in my body screamed not to, but I did anyway. We left the station, boarded a streetcar, and rode a short distance. The fear kept growing, but I felt frozen, like I wasn't fully in control of myself anymore. I barely remember what he was saying. I just nodded along. He was much taller than me, stronger, and I remember his backpack covered in cartoon cow heads. We got off the streetcar, walked about 100 meters, and stopped in front of a gate. He opened it with a key fob and stepped inside. I stayed outside. He turned around and said, "What are you doing? Come with me." I didn't want to, but I followed him again. Inside was an apartment complex with a long, dark path leading to several buildings. He lived in the one farthest from the exit. We went inside, climbed to the second floor, and entered his apartment. He turned on the TV, handed me a charger from his nightstand, and went to the bathroom. That's when it hit me. I was alone in a stranger's apartment. My phone battery was now 9%. The charger was damaged. I had to hold it at a specific angle for it to charge at all. The apartment was small and messy, just one room, clutter everywhere. The bed was unmade, clothes covered the floor. I sat on the edge of the bed with my jacket, shoes, and backpack still on. When he came back, he sat right next to me. He asked if I wanted food or a drink. I said no. I told him I needed to leave soon. He offered to let me stay the night. I refused. He was sitting between me and the door. We sat there in silence. The TV was on. I stared straight ahead, barely breathing. Then, without warning, he placed his hand on my thigh. I panicked. I called my mom. I talked normally about the Louvre, about my day, pretending nothing was wrong. She had no idea. After a few minutes, she said goodnight and hung up. My heart dropped. I looked at him. His hand was still on my thigh. He was masturbating while staring at me. I called my dad immediately. Thankfully, he answered. I told him about my day, making sure to say "Dad" at the end of every sentence so the man would know who I was talking to. I was breathing heavily, and when my dad asked why, I lied and said I was running to catch my train. I told him not to hang up. I stood up and walked toward the door. It was locked. The man stood, unlocked it, and opened the door for me. "Come back any time," he said.
Then he licked my neck. I ducked under his arm to escape, and as I walked out, he slapped my ass. I ran, down the stairs, out of the building, across the courtyard, all the way to the streetcar stop. The streetcar arrived immediately. I got on, shaking, and stayed on the phone with my dad until I was safe. I made it home that night. Nothing worse happened. But sometimes I think about what could have, and how close I came to not getting out at all.
So yeah, those were all the stories for today. Honestly, while reading these, I kept thinking, would I even survive something like this? Now I really want to hear from you. Which story messed with you the most? Was it the first one, the middle, or that last story? Let me know in the comments, what would you have done in that situation? Where do you think things could have gone differently? If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, it really helps the channel, and subscribe if you want more real disturbing stories like these. And if you have a story that still gives you chills, drop it in the comments. It might end up in the next video. Stay safe, and let's not meet again.